Let's catch up with James Luxford, shall we? Gorgeous sunny Friday morning. Hopefully nice where you are, James, in Stratford-upon-Avon.
It's lovely, thank you. Good morning.
Good to have you with us this morning. And James, of course, movie critic, Metro newspaper, Radio Times. You can read his movie reviews, and you pick out on a Friday morning 3 films you think worthy of us having a look at over the weekend, starting off tonight on BBC One.
Today, 10:45 BBC One, it's Rush. Chris Hemsworth plays F1 legend James Hunt in the story of his rivalry with the clinical Austrian driver Niki Lauda.
You have to really believe it.
I've been waiting for this my whole life.
I can beat this guy, trust me.
He's consistent, dependable. Will he put his life on the line the day that really matters?
Welcome to the racing grudge match of the decade.
The story of the 1976 F1 season. James Hunt, Niki Lauda, and Ron Howard, I think, wasn't it, who directed this?
Yes, it is, and it's just a great sporting drama, just very thrilling. It's about what it takes to succeed, really. James Hunt, you just heard there, played by Chris Hemsworth, was a maverick, loved the spotlight, loved, living the life of a superstar, as it were. Niki Lauda, more reserved, more cerebral, more competitive, and it's about those two cultures clashing. And then if you know anything about that season and Lauda's career, turmoil along the way during the season, makes it more than just a race. Hemsworth is great, as is Daniel Bruhl, as Niki Lauda. I'm not an F1 expert, but I took a lot from this. I think it's a really compelling drama.
And of course, the story of Lauda's horrific crash on the Nürburgring in that season, his strength of will to come back from that and get back in a car again, the psychology of that, and of course the big showdown at Mount Fuji in the final race of the year in Japan, which culminated at the end of the season. Great movie. Up next, one that me and my kids watched at the cinema when it came out. Oh, by the way, Rush is 10:45 tonight on BBC One. But this is it's in that family-friendly Saturday afternoon slot, isn't it, this one?
Yes, Saturday 5:15 on BBC One. It's Monsters University, a prequel to Pixar's Monsters Inc., looking at the early days of best friends Mike and Sully.
Welcome to the scare floor.
How do I become a scarer?
I'm officially a college student. Mike Wazowski.
James B. Sullivan.
Like Bill Sullivan?
He's my dad.
I expect big things from you.
Mike Wazowski, which, again, if you know the movie, you'll know what that makes reference to that. But Billy Crystal, again, it's just so funny, this.
Yes, just terrific there. He makes such a good duo with John Goodman, who plays Sully there, and it's just really good fun. I'd say it takes a lot to live up to the first film, Monsters Inc. That's a bona fide classic, but still, this is full of laughs, and some lovely moments. A lot of good comedy, great animation as you'd expect from Pixar, and I think a really good addition to the Pixar canon. I think it's tough to do a good prequel, a prequel that's worth watching, that fills in the gaps in a way that's interesting. I think this does it.
And just before we go to the third and final pick, James, just some thoughts from you, and I imagine a good sizable dollop of relief on behalf of the cinema industry that the go-ahead's been given, certainly for outdoor cinemas for now, and hopefully at some point in the very near future, your chance to. I know the VU cinemas, some of them are back open again, aren't they? Showcase cinemas at Walsgrave back open again this week. That in terms of the movie-going public and for the movie industry, just the start of a return to normality now.
You'd hope so. I think we, as an industry, cinema is predicated on what's happening in America, and they are moving at a different pace to us. But cinemas are open again. Showcase in Coventry has been open since last week. I went to see Back to the Future. It's a really really good system in place. Really, I felt quite safe. It's always going to be a personal choice, especially these early days of going back in. But it's kind of a sort of a conveyor belt system and quite well socially distanced with masks. If it's your choice to wear them, but we went along in masks and I found it uh, quite a relief to be back, and I think quite a relief that cinemas could adapt so well.
Yeah, and I think we were having a conversation a bit earlier about the wearing a mask in public places. It does feel as though it's kind of almost like a personal responsibility you take on, isn't it? For that, we were talking to people who've been sort of travelling through Spain and France. It feels like that the continent's taken that mask wearing much more seriously than we have, and hopefully, if it's the sort of thing that you're going to go to a public place like a cinema. Being seen to just be seen to wear a mask is probably a good thing, even though if it's not compulsory. Let's move on to your third and final pick, James. You talked about bona fide classics. This is certainly one of them, isn't it?
Certainly. Sunday, 4:05 on Sony Movies Classic on Freeview. It's Cleopatra, the 1963 drama about the affair between Cleopatra and Mark Antony, played by Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton.
Will kneel
I will what?
on your knees.
You dare ask the proconsul of Rome?
I asked it of Julius Caesar. I demand it of you.
It is a classic, isn't it? It really is, and the chemistry between the two of them, you really feel it.
Oh, absolutely. It is about as classic Hollywood as it gets. Huge sets, huge drama. I think Elizabeth Taylor was at the height of her stardom here, and just magnetic chemistry with her real life partner, Richard Burton. It was the most expensive film of all time at one point. I think every penny can be seen on that screen. Real spectacle, and I think a great Sunday afternoon movie to pick there.
Yeah, 4:00 on Sunday afternoon on Sony Movies Classic for Cleopatra. James, have a good weekend. You venturing out to the cinema again this weekend?
I think so. I think it might be. I said to my wife today, it might be one of those days where when you were younger, your parents just drop you off at the movies. There's so many good classics being shown at the moment. I might just spend the day there with a mask on, of course.
Of course. James, good to hear from you. Thanks so much indeed. And you can read his reviews in the Metro newspaper and Radio Times magazine. And he's back on Monday when he picks up some movies for us for the week ahead as well here on BBC CWR.